Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. A few things to talk about today, and I hope you guys are all doing okay today. My main topic is, and I made another video of this before, and but it goes a little more in depth. This is why do we suffer? That's the main question, right? Why does God allow suffering? Why does Yah allow suffering? But it goes further than that. People don't understand that. Right from, you can't understand it. You know, if you say Yahweh is not fair, you know, how can He allow suffering and all this? When people are looking for that answer, when you see, you know, like a Christian talking to a non-believer about this, you know, more times than not, I don't hear them go all the way back to Genesis and explain what happened, which is, I think, a pretty big mistake, because you're not going to be able to get it through to them why, right? And with that, I want to explain how amazing it is, the rescue plan that was set in place right away. And I think it's pretty cool. So you may not know it, and I'll tell you it just in a second. I wanted to tell you, I had a horrible day yesterday. You know, I'm 45 now, and you know, I went through my life. I drank alcohol. I did drugs when I was younger. Well, no, it was part way into my 30s anyways, but I'd say around 30 all that kind of stuff stopped. But being born again, I can say without hesitation that I hate the world. I hate many of the laws, I hate many of the people's actions, and I understand why people do certain things, but you know, it's just hard to tolerate. So I'll tell you what happened yesterday, and that may be reflecting me today. I'm hypersensitive to, I've been my whole life, to medications, to like just about everything you can think of, and actually being sensitive too, as many believers in Christ are, but probably extra on top of that, because I have autism, and my nervous system is not the same as yours, so I suffer severe sensitivities. That's why I ended up with pain in the first place, because I had a horrible reaction to a drug that was so dangerous, and so here's the story. I asked my dad to go for another walk down at the river, and so I don't think I was feeling that well when I got there. I felt kind of irritable. Sometimes I do when I travel in a car or something like that, because I have a lot of abdominal difficulty. It's very tough for me to sit down. So we're walking along, and I showed you in another video. Yeah, if you can remember the pier that I showed you. It's like a pier, I don't know, it has like a big, like a red and white, like kind of a lighthouse type thing, if you can remember seeing that. Well, yesterday, and I'll tell you the sequelae of that too, the effects after. I went to the end of that place, okay, and there were people there. There was maybe at the end 5 people, and they were fishing, and there was like someone had caught a catfish, and it was just sitting out there, breathing in, breathing out, like I couldn't breathe. I don't know, that's what people do, right, when they catch them, or they put them in the water, but my dad started to talk to them, as he does, you know, when he sees people fishing to see if they caught something. And my dad had made a joke because they were smoking weed. I didn't know they were smoking weed. You're not allowed to smoke weed on any park grounds. You're not allowed to smoke cigarettes in parks. That's just a law. And to be honest, this is why I hate this world. Where I live in Canada, like, we were legalized first over all the other countries except for maybe 2. like the Netherlands and I forget what other country it is, Portugal. And so my dad tried to make a joke, and he said, well, at least he didn't get skunked. He said that because, he caught a fish, right? And I don't know, they laughed, and the guy that had a joint in his hand was right beside me, and all the smoke went, and I inhaled it all right in my face. Okay. When I stopped smoking weed when I was 25 years old because, first of all, I stopped, and then I was still hanging out at one of my friends' houses, and they were smoking bongs, they were smoking joints all the time. That's all they were doing, and I would sit there and get high by their smoke, and I had to stop going to that house. Well, this was strong. It was really strong, and I inhaled it. And people say you can't get high by secondhand smoke is stupid, because I did. I started to get really, really agitated, and my heart was like going quicker. It's like I couldn't control like my breathing. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I was like kind of short of breath. And anyways, it screwed that up, and I had to go home. I felt so angry about that. I'm like, I hate this world. People don't follow the laws. People just don't. People smoking joints everywhere. That's what they do here. That really bothered me. I feel nervous right now, and that's because of like my stomach. Just give me a second. So I got high. It didn't feel good. And it's no wonder people go into psychosis, and the studies have come out that people get much worse. They think it's the opposite, but it isn't. All the studies are coming out. They legalize it, and it's like 5 years later, your country comes out with studies saying our mental wards are filled with psychiatric cases. No wonder. So I use CBD, okay, right at the end of the night, and that kind of gives me that kind of feeling. That's how hypersensitive I am. And it has a warning that it can do that on it. But this, yesterday, was 50 times as strong because it was pure THC. So that happened to me yesterday. All right, let's get into. I just wanted to say that I need a prayer. I know I don't get into my things sometimes for like 10. It takes 10 minutes. You guys know this by now. I know someone who's not doing well at all, and let's just call it financial, and it wasn't on purpose or anything, and I need prayers for this person, or because this person can end up in a really bad place, and if you could say a prayer, please, for this person to turn their life around. And like, quite honestly, I don't even really know what to do. I just need a prayer, as many prayers as I can get for this person, for a man, okay? A man who's disabled and just not doing well. So I would appreciate that, please. Okay, so what am I getting into here? It's going to be a long video. Longer video. Give me a second. Oh yeah, this is what else I wanted to raise. You know, the other video I made about, like, is this total depravity of Paul? Is this Paul who's writing something that Jesus didn't teach? And I got a nice comment. You can look back in my video about that, and maybe you're watching my video today. I had to reconcile Paul's teachings or Jesus' teachings versus Paul's. What are the difference? Like, what's going on here? Number one, total depravity was never taught. It is a thing. We are depraved, right? We're partially depraved. We know this. But what they have taught from 400 or 500 on AD it wasn't, that's not what they were teaching, okay? And that's all you have to know. The basic message is read your Bible and like this person said, throw away every other book. Not to say don't read things, but I found an excellent article that does reconcile the differences. If you're, I'll look for it again. Yes, I know where it is. You may not agree with it, but I believe this person is 100% right. It's going to be in the description box under doctrine.org. And so this person does an excellent job, side-by-side comparisons, preaching to the Jews, right? That's what the apostles did, and Paul did to the Gentiles. And it's so cool to learn that if you look back in Acts and you look back in all these different things, they had to have a council in 51 AD because of Paul's teachings. Because, anyways, it ended up that Paul ended up teaching the apostles. They had two different teachings, and you'll have to learn why. You have to learn deep into this. The apostles, that Jesus taught them that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. They preached who Jesus Christ was. Paul preached about the grace of God. They preached like the apostles preached like kingdom while Jesus was here. Anyways, it's so intricate. You're going to have to read this, and I actually beg you to read this because you'll understand so much more. Whether you agree with it or not, it is what I believe. So give me a second, I'm going to get into this. The bottom line is that Paul was given a revelation. He wasn't taught anything. Suddenly, how did Paul know all this stuff? I'm not talking about his Pharisaical teachings. We know he's really intelligent, and you wonder why so many things seem so tough with his teaching, as Peter says, right? And then he says they accepted Paul's teachings, which you have to understand. What I wanted to say was that the apostles were not teaching the Gentiles even up to 51 AD. Or something like that. And most people don't realize that. But read this. You got to read this. They came to a consensus in 51 AD, like 20 years after Jesus' death, that's the point that they came, and they said, remember, it was about circumcision. It was about circumcision. You can't be saved, right? That's what they said. And so Paul had to come to Jerusalem. They had the Council of Jerusalem, right? And they said, remember Peter saw that blanket come down with Cornelius? Well, he understood, right? He was the one who understood when at this council, and he said, if it goes to them too. Who are we to question Yah? And it was from that point that they understood. But they said, for us, so the law was given, the Mosaic law was given to the Jews, okay? They come to the point where they say that what we're supposed to do, the Gentiles, is no sexual immorality, no strangled animals. We can't eat the meat of strangled animals or blood. And so no sexual immorality. You can read that in Acts. Okay. This is a really good article that I'm going to leave in. And if I somehow forget, which I usually do, I will remember later. So, why do we suffer? This is a double title. Why do we suffer? / the amazing plan that Yahuah had for us immediately. Right from the beginning, and I'm going to read a scripture to you. Remember what... Okay, so you have Adam and Eve in the garden, okay? Remember the woman was formed after man to be his helper and companion. And so in the garden, whatever, I've looked before, how long were they in there before this happened? It could be 30 years or so. But they were in there, and Yah said, do not eat of the, the tree of the life and tree of knowledge. And then the serpent comes along, right? The serpent comes along and says, did Yah really say that you should not eat of the tree? And then the woman, she eats, right? And then she shares with Adam, right? And the fault, when you look at the fault, obviously she made a mistake, but the fault falls on Adam. Why? Because he's the leader. He was formed first. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And women get offended at that, but they shouldn't, because of the original way that Yah wanted this. We're no better, men are no better. It's just the way in which Yah intended this. Give me a sec. Give me a little break, and I'm going to continue. I had the strangest thing happen to me. I just looked in my microwave, like I just had a shower, workout shower. Came out, opened my microwave. The only reason I use my microwave is I make egg whites, okay? I make egg whites, as you can see here. It's just part of my diet. It's like a neutral type thing. I don't have many choices of food to eat. That's what I use for protein. I don't put anything else in my microwave at all. I'm not kidding you. I don't put anything in there. I don't cook any other foods in there. I use my oven. I just opened it up and there was red. It was like lasagna all over the place. I have no idea how that happened. I just cleaned that up though. Isn't that strange? And that reminds me, if I that's what I meant to say in the beginning. I had a sleep paralysis dream last night and I called on the Lord. I'm not kidding you. And it worked. And I believe I got attacked because of what happened to me last night. I felt really bad for my dad because I'm like, I'm irritable. I got to get out of here. Finish the walk, but still. He knows when to attack. Put it that way. Prince of the power of the air, right? So what did they do? They ate, and then remember, they heard Jesus walking in the garden. I'm presuming it's Jesus walking in the garden, and they called to them, right? And they said, why? What did they say? They were hiding, right? Who told you were naked? Anyways, it was the serpent who did this. So what happened was power was usurped. The garden was originally meant to be an amazing place, and it was an amazing place that you and I cannot imagine. It's a place that one day we will be again. And because they handed that power over to Satan, okay? And there was an amazing rescue plan immediately. And I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to say before I even say that. That's why we suffer. He said, you shall surely die. The reason we die, right? The reason we die, we see people die, we see people suffer, is because of the choice of Adam, right? Eve. No, Adam. It's because of that choice, and it isn't any other way. We were disobedient. He was disobedient. And it's true, you and I are born sinners because of that. People don't like that, but that's the reality. So what happened was, I'm going to move right to this. That's why we suffer. That's I'm going to read this to you. But I didn't want to read this first, but I think I have to. Let's read Genesis 3, the temptation and fall of man. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord had made. And he said to the woman, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of the tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent said to the woman, you shall not surely die, for God knows in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you'll be like Yah, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. Can you imagine that when we get our glorified bodies back, whatever, if it's going to be the same or better, maybe you and I will have absolutely no clothes. We don't have to wear clothes because we won't see each other as looking down at private parts. We won't know the difference. It's crazy, eh? That shame was born like in that moment. Wouldn't you say? That's when shame was born. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. And they heard the sound of the Lord walking in the garden, okay, in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord Yah, among the trees of the garden. Then the Lord Yah called to Adam and said to him, where are you? As if he knows where he is. So he said, I heard your voice in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked and hid myself. Who told you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? Then the man said, the woman who you gave to me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And the Lord Yah said to the woman, what is this you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me, and I ate. So the Lord Yah said, give me a sec. Because you have done this, you're cursed more than all cattle, he said to the serpent, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. Listen, don't let it get to your head. This is Satan. I will put enmity, okay, this is important, between you and the woman. So that means Satan and the woman. And between your seed and her seed. So Satan has seed and her seed, and he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Who is the seed of the woman that they're talking about? That's going to bruise the head. It's going to bruise the head of Satan. It's Jesus Christ. So like immediately we have Christ in Scripture. He's all over the place. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrows in your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband. What the heck does that mean? And he shall rule over you. So I think I'm going to stop there because you don't need to hear the rest. What does that mean for the woman? That her desire would be to rule over her husband, a power control. Do we see that today? Have we seen that throughout all history? Yes, we have. Feminists and all this type of stuff. there's meant to be a divine and beautiful order to this, right? There's supposed to be a beautiful order to this. And I'm going to read you from Got Questions. This is correct. From Genesis 3:16. As God pronounces judgment on Eve for her part in the transgression of Eden, he says, "Your desire shall be for your husband, and he will rule over you." The verse causes some puzzlement. It would seem that a woman desiring her husband would be a good thing and not a curse. The Hebrew phrase in question doesn't include a verb and is literally translated towards your husband, your desire. Since this judgment is predictive, the future tense verb is added for clarity. Your desire will be for your husband. The most basic and straightforward understanding of this verse is that woman and man would now have ongoing conflict. In contrast to the ideal conditions, the original, in the Garden of Eden when there was no trouble, and the harmony between Adam and Eve, their relationship from that point would include a power struggle. You will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. God's saying that Eve would desire to rule over her husband, Jezebel. Well, that could be that was a woman, but can be it's a spirit for both now. But her husband would rule over her, replacing the mutually interdependent relationship the Lord had created was a desire for one spouse to leave the other. So throughout history, women seem to be pretty good with that. Of course, there was some who aren't, right? But there is a desire there that women have. And it was from Genesis. Sin had wrought discord. The battle of the sexes had begun. Both men and women would now seek the upper hand in marriage. The man was to lovingly care for and nurture his wife, would now seek to rule her, and the wife would desire to wrestle control from her husband. It's important to note that this judgment only states that what will take place. God says that a man will live in conflict and the relationship will become problematic. I've never been married, but there's always some type of struggle, right? And that's why most successful marriages are Christian marriages. I know, I've looked at the stats. They're way better. And it's not dominate, okay? The statement, he shall rule over you, is not biblical for dominate. You have to go through Genesis 1 to see that he made woman for a helper, for a companion, for Adam. And it doesn't mean that man is better, right? But there is a divine order to this. We're divinely created. So what did I want to get back to? Something important. Just let me take a sip of water. This is the really cool part that I wanted to say. Of course, I save it to the end, but I guess that's just the way it goes. I was looking yesterday because I think it's a really cool thing to be a friend of Yah. Don't you think? It almost sounds better to say a friend of God. Believe me, I do want to say, I feel a struggle to say that title, but it's just respect. And I keep forgetting I do, because of pain and all those types of things. But to be a friend of Yah, there can be no higher title than that, can there? So I'm looking at Abraham was, and also Moses was. Yah talked to Moses in the tabernacle face to face. It says like a friend would. Wow. Anyway, so I'm looking. So all those things happened in the garden, right? And then you had Noah, and then you had everything else happen. Then you have Abraham, right? Friend of Yah. And remember he asks, right? He asks Abraham to sacrifice his son, to sacrifice his son. And this was before, I think it was before a sacrificial system. I don't know if anyone was sacrificing before that, but I'll just tell this. He goes up, right? And the son doesn't know what's happening. Nobody knows what's happening. It's hard to pull Isaac away from his mother, right? Anyways, they go up, and then they go by themselves up to whatever, Mount Moriah or whatever. They gather the wood, and he finally tells his son, because his son says, Father, I don't, where's the sacrifice? And he said, you are the sacrifice. And Isaac was okay with it. He said, if this is what you have to do, do it. Wow. And then, they have the wood and everything. He's about to kill him with the knife, right? And he puts up his hand like this. I think, that's what they, obviously he came, and then an angel stopped him, I guess an angel of the Lord. And he said, don't do that. And that's when Yah recognized, this is my friend. He's willing to sacrifice. He's willing to sacrifice. Here's a question. I believe it was from Genesis. Remember, Yah has foreknowledge, okay? I guess you could look at this in two ways. He has foreknowledge. All the way from Genesis 1 that I read to you on purpose. I will put enmity, right? It tells you that Jesus Christ is coming before the story of Abraham. But, we don't know the reasons why things play out the way they do sometimes, right? There's such an order to them. People say, is this predestination type thing? But anyways, he says, don't sacrifice your son. He says, I realize you're obedient, and there's great honor about that. That's why he calls him his friend. Immediately, Abraham notices that a ram, I don't know if it was a baby ram or if it was a lamb, I believe it was a ram, was stuck in the thicket or in the fence or something like that. And I didn't realize before, like I've known for quite a while, but I didn't realize the first times I was reading this, so Abraham, immediately after the angel of the Lord says this, he goes over and he grabs the ram and he sacrifices it to Yah. That ram represents Jesus Christ. That's the parallel story of Yahweh, God, giving his son to us. It's a parallel story. Some would say, well, was he willing to sacrifice Jesus? Was Yahweh, God, willing to sacrifice Jesus because of what Abraham did? It seems so, but that's not that. And that's why I talk about predestination. Is it foreknowledge or predestination, right? These are contentious things. Give me a second. But that's beautiful, right? He was willing to do it. And because of that, there was a covenant made, right? And, there were a lot of different covenants made. But what was I going to say next? So what am I saying anyways? Who am I? Who are you? Where am I? Right off the bat, Yah, God, was willing to sacrifice his son for us. Jesus willingly did this. He is one. He's part of the triune, right? He still has the Father, right? But he was willing to come down from his throne, right? And this is what people don't explain often, the way I'm trying to say this. He came down from his throne. Oh crap, I'm not recording this. And was willing to save us. And he knew full well, because he knows human nature, what he would have to do, what he would have to suffer. And he was willing to do it to save even the worst person. Think of the worst person you know. Think of murderers. Think of rapists. Think of Hamas. They get dreams too, eh? They get dreams. They see things. Suddenly they're saved. I know what I want to say. I point you towards this because this is important. When Adam and Eve were, okay? Remember, it was just Adam and Eve. That's it. They had complete access to Yah. Complete access. When they sinned, what happened was there was a veil put up. You know the veil I'm talking about. There was a partition wall, as Paul talks about, put up. All of a sudden, we don't have the same access to Yah anymore, as you know. That he still talks to us, but eventually it morphs into sending prophets, and then all of a sudden, really nothing. Or, very few and far between. And no, I don't believe in NAR, New Apostolic Reformation, NAR. I don't believe in that. Do I believe certain people can see prophecies or are given prophecies? It depends if they talk about it and things happen. But anyways, I don't want to get into that really. There was a wall put up. You know the tabernacle, you know the temple, right? You know how there's there's the courtyard, and then you go in, and there's the holy, and then the most holy, and all that. And separating the holy from the most holy is that, there's like a veil type thing where they sprinkle blood and stuff like that. Think of it this way. That wall of that temple, all those walls are a barrier. They're a barrier between us and Yah. That was never meant to be that way. The mistake came all the way in Genesis when they sinned against Yah and chose Satan. I think you understand now. So why did they sacrifice, right? Why did they sacrifice? And so when Jesus Christ came, he fulfilled the law of what all the prophets said, and then he died. He saved us from sin. He broke down that wall, that veil. If he hadn't done that, we would have never been forgiven. Because he did that, we have an opening. You know how it says there is this is why Catholics completely get it wrong. You don't need priests for confession. We have direct access to Yah through Jesus Christ. There is no mediator but the man Jesus Christ, not Mary. Don't pray to Mary. She was a chosen vessel. She was blessed. But I can point a verse to you that says, is where it says, blessed is the womb that birthed you. And he says, rather, blessed is he who, something like that. Anyways, he doesn't look on one person better than another. She's not a super woman. That's what I'm saying. That partition wall was down. So during the sacrifice, you say, why did they have to sacrifice things? Because to Yah, to God, when you and I sin, in the garden, they weren't sinning, okay? They weren't sinning. They weren't taught sin. They didn't know sin at all. This is what people don't understand, and this is why it's good to keep purity. Keep pure. Be righteous. You can be righteous. Remember it says in John, don't be deceived, children. Those who practice righteousness are righteous. Yes, we can be like filthy rags to Yah. And a lot of the time, yes. I don't believe total depravity. But we do have depraved nature, especially in today's society. when you and I sin, it's such a stain to Yah, to God, okay? To him, it's a huge offense. And what he's tolerating from you and I are horrible things. To him, to equate it, it would be like us watching our parents or our kids get murdered. That's how serious it is to him. His ways are not our ways, right? So that's why they had to do animal sacrifices all this time. Why? To make you realize. So let's say I sinned, okay? I did a sexual sin, okay? Or I stole. I have to present myself to the priest and say I sinned, and then I have to do a certain atonement for it. The priest does his thing. You know, I bring whatever it is for whatever sin. You have to go look back in the law, right? Let's say it's a little lamb. The cutest thing on earth, right? Them and rabbits. You have to put your hand on its head and you slice its throat. Can you think of anything like worse to do? So he makes us feel what he feels. Do you get that, right? I wouldn't like doing that, and I would feel, you know, I'd be like, I don't want to sin again because I don't want to see one of those little things die. And then I forget what chapter it is, but I just read over it that it says, it may have been Isaiah that I was studying, or Amos, I don't know, where it says, remember, God comes to a point where he's like, mercy is better than sacrifice, and that is true. It's better to have mercy upon someone than to sacrifice to him. But he gets to the point where he's like, there are people who cut the lamb's throat like they're breaking a dog's neck, like they don't even care. So when they would sacrifice, right, the animal, they would take its blood, and then eventually they would sprinkle it, whatever they'd pour some out at the base of the altar, but they would sprinkle it on that veil. On that veil. And now that veil, so first it was the animal that they sprinkled, right, for the atonement. Jesus was the final atonement. Don't ever be fooled otherwise. He was the final atonement. He died outside the camp, which had to be done, and his blood was sprinkled on that veil. He was the final sacrifice. Boom. Wall taken down. You and I don't have to go to a priest. We just have to talk to Jesus, and then Jesus has access to the Father. That's it. Do you understand now? There was a plan from the beginning. Pardon me a sec. It bothers me, but I understand when unlearned people who don't know the Bible say, why would he allow so much suffering? It's very hard to get through to these people, right? Very tough. So the next time anyone asks you, remember what I said. I know I said 44 minutes worth of stuff, but it took me a while to learn this. But he came here and he was willing to die to save us that way. There was that rescue plan right away. And I find that truly amazing. Anyways, guys, I'm cutting in on some time here. Trying to get going here, so please say a prayer for this person. I don't want to say more about it because I'm a very private person when it comes to other people's business. Needs a lot of help, and I'm not like in a position where I'm not able to help that way. So this person needs a special prayer. Honest, please do a genuine prayer for this person. Anyways, guys, have a good day, and I hope this has edified you, because I tried to explain it. Remember, people are edified. What does that mean? You're edified if I read something to you and you understand it, right? Not understand something from an earthly standpoint, but I'm talking about actual scripture. God bless.